right, fantastic. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you everyone for joining us for today's lesson. So this will be the start of some interesting content in these next few weeks, because we are going to be going through actual cases. So these are case studies, and in today's lesson we'll cover two cases from my own practice, and very interesting then at this point to actually see how all the anomalies that we've learned about so far, how they all actually come together in actual live cases, which is where everything becomes a lot more interesting. So let's get started with the first one. Mr. TR, a 46-year-old male. Main complaints in history: he has hypertension, diagnosed 8 months ago, borderline high cholesterol, mild fatigue, and occasional headaches. Does not suffer from any symptoms and claims to be generally well. In terms of medication, on Pharmapress, which is a type of hypertension medication, and no other medicines or supplements. Previous procedures and investigations. So he was diagnosed with high blood pressure after a general medical exam 8 months previously. The doctor mentioned that his cholesterol was borderline and recommended that he sees a dietitian. Now, diet and lifestyle: Mr. TR relies on fast foods as he lives alone and often arrives too late from work to prepare his own meals. Usually also doesn't have enough time in the mornings and often picks up a muffin or a pastry with a coffee on the way to work. Due to his busy schedule, he also drinks approximately 5 cups of coffee a day, as well as an energy drink occasionally. He drinks 2 to 3 cups of water a day. Smoker, approximately 20 a day. And alcohol use usually weekends, approximately 12 standard beers per week. So not the best lifestyle and diet. So let's have a look at what showed up in his blood sample. So let's start with live blood here. We have a bright field and dark field image up there. So we can very clearly see the rouleau there. A very significant degree of rouleau when we look at the extent of overlapping there. You know, most of the red blood cells in this image on the left-hand side are stuck together and overlapping to some degree. There aren't really many red blood cells lying on their own. Perhaps in the upper corner there might be a single one. So quite extensive, an extensive degree of rouleau here. This was graded at 4 out of 5 because this was generally the type of picture throughout most of the working area of the sample. Remember that we only see rouleau as significant. It's only really relevant when we're seeing it in more than 50% of the working area of the sample. So for grade of 4 out of 5, we really need to see a fairly high degree of rouleau, you know, through most of the working area of the sample. Thrombocyte aggregation there on the right-hand side, that large cluster of thrombocytes visible there, quite large, especially compared to the size of the red blood cells here. This is actually a slightly lower magnification. We can see the large group of thrombocytes there. So graded at 5 out of 5. There were a few of these types of clusters in the sample. This is the largest of them that we actually saw, and usually it is a good idea when you know, picturing or taking pictures of the anomalies that you encounter in a sample, to take a good example of the sort of most representative areas of what you're looking at. So thrombocyte aggregation graded at 5 out of 5 there. Fibrin or spicules graded at 4 out of 5, so also a fairly high degree of fibrin, and we can see also on the image on the right hand side there also the extensive degree of fibrin visible in the plasma there. All right, and then we listed thrombosis separately because we observed a significant degree of rouleau thrombocyte aggregation and fibrin in the sample. So seeing those three together implies an increased risk of thrombosis. So listed as a separate anomaly there because it is an important one to monitor. Graded at 5 out of 5 again because of the extent to which those individual anomalies were actually seen. Fibrin, thrombocyte aggregation, and rouleau all featured very, very strongly in the sample.